Hi Sterling, how you doing?
I'm well, thanks, Dan. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Very good. Thanks for coming on and taking part in
My
this.
pleasure.
It's great. So yeah, if you wouldn't mind, just
I've always wanted to be one of your pocket mentors, so here's my big chance.
thanks very much. I'm getting quite a few requests at the moment, which is it's ace. So it's completely unexpected, to be quite honest. So
Yeah, it's
no,
good.
it's good. I'm slowly finding my rhythm a little bit more. But
Good.
yeah, thanks again. If you don't mind, just taking us back to the beginning and then
Yeah.
just talking it through so people can really get to know you, that'd be amazing.
Okay. I did a business studies degree a long, long, long time ago, and then wanted to move into marketing. I was always fascinated by marketing and what it meant. And this was, remember, many decades ago when not a lot of people, not to say not a lot of people, but not many people really understood what the nuances and what marketing was really about. But I was fascinated by it. Used to get all the magazines like Campaign and Marketing Week and Marketing, and just wanting to move into that. And I managed to secure a job with a company called Kimberly Clark, who manufacture kitchen towels and Kleenex and so on. And worked for them for a couple of years, first as a graduate trainee in their sales team and then in marketing. And then one day I saw an ad in what was then the Grocer, which was,
Yeah.
again, the main point for all sort of executive positions, irrespective of the sector. And it was with Revlon, and it was 50% more salary and a full Capri. And I thought that would be quite nice, really. And it was a sales role, so I got that. I was interviewed on the Monday before Christmas. I was interviewed on the Monday before Christmas, had a second interview on the Wednesday, and on Friday I was offered the job. And it was a sales role covering a Revlon territory. But in those days, people moved quickly, and that's when I started in beauty, and I've been in it ever since.
And when you were younger then and you chose to do, why did you choose a business degree? Were
I've
parents,
always,
what
well,
was the
my
influence?
dad's had his own business, and I was always, we grew up talking about business, both my brother and I, and my dad. I just always fascinated by it. I'm sure my mum probably would have been happy if I'd been a lawyer or a doctor, but I'm probably a frustrated creative, if you get what I mean. And I think I've just always been fascinated by creativity and the kind of mental leaps you have to make when you're talking about marketing and you place yourself in the consumer's shoes. That's quite fascinating. So I've always loved it. I've also always loved selling. I find it very difficult when people say they can't sell, because I've always found it easy. And in fact, I don't sell. I just get people agreeing with me in terms of, like, consensual way. I'm the last, last thing I am is a hard salesperson. I could never do that. But it's always been one of the, successes of my career.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. I think you do get people that are more natural into that
Yeah.
sales side, and you do get the more pushy ones. I'm definitely more in your mold, I think, from the non-pushy
Yeah.
sales side.
And then it becomes easy, and you don't, it's not pressure, and yeah, I mean, it's worked very well for me. And so I was at Revlon for 8.5 years. At the time, and this shows my age, when Charlie Fragrance was the number one fragrance.
Right, okay.
Um, yeah, the first fragrance that ever had a woman in trousers as part of their advertising.
Oh, really?
And I mean, it was the number one fragrance. And within a very short space of time at Revlon, I was offered the role of managing the stores in the West End. So it was like Selfridges, Harrods, huge business. Our MD took a particular interest in the performance of those stores. There was weekly Monday morning meetings when you went back over the week's figures. It would be the first place, overseas visitors from Revlon, maybe US or Europe or wherever, were going to, to see what was happening with places like Selfridges and Harrods. And so I had an amazing education at Revlon. And while I was there, I was headhunted to join Rimmel, which had recently been taken over by Shearing Plough. And I, along with a whole load of other people, formed a new management team with the view of changing Rimmel from a cheap and nasty brand to a brand that had value and really stood for something.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
again, I was there about 9 years, started as their first ever national account manager and ended up as sales and distribution director, where I had responsibility for the whole supply chain from order to delivery. So that was a great learning curve, because, it taught me new things that I hadn't learned before.
And
Hadn't
so,
done
what was
before.
the role while you were at Revlon? Was that just like a?
No, I did. I stayed mostly in sales. I worked my way up to a whole variety of levels, and then also was involved in running their premium brand, which I know has long since disappeared, called Ultima 2,
Right.
which was a
Okay.
beautiful premium brand. If I remember rightly, they also had another brand called Bourjois, which was a French star-based brand, and Madame Bourjois actually existed. I mean, I remember meeting her. So it was, a great place to work. And, I've obviously done other things since then, which I go on about, but I consider myself lucky because I've never, ever had that awful Sunday night feeling ever since I joined the beauty industry. I loved it. When I was younger and our children were growing up, I would go back to work for a rest. I thought it was like a complete rest
Yeah, I can
from
empathise with that. I don't know many people in our industry that really do dread that. There will be
no, I think
people, but
I agree
it's
with
not an
you. I mean,
industry I ever thought I'd get involved with. And yeah, since I've been in it, I've loved every minute of it, and I haven't
yeah.
once had that Monday feeling.
No,
When you
I'm
were
the
at
same, but it's not the same for lots of other people in other sectors. So, I count my blessings. And then from Rimmel, I was, as I said, headhunted by Shearing Plough, who were wanted to grow, just recently acquired, and then wanted to grow the Rimmel brand. Again, I moved from national accounts, as I said earlier, up to sales and distribution director. Had a great time, and then in my final year there, I was courted by Estée Lauder to join them as UK sales director.
okay,
I joined on the first working day in January and left the last working day of that year, because halfway through that year, I'd been approached by Bourjois, which was owned by Chanel, to turn their brand around, because every health indicator was pointing downwards and there was a major job to be done to get the brand back where it should have been. So I'm probably one of the only person who's probably stayed at Lauder exactly 1 year and left of their own accord. Working from Lauder was great as well. I mean, I learned so much from them about the department store and premium business. But I'd always been a great admirer of the Bourjois brand, which has now sadly come out of the UK. It was bought by Coty about 3 years ago. And I saw it launch, and it launched extremely well, and then just saw it sort of, gradually disappearing. So the challenge of turning it around was too good not to take, really.
yeah, no, I can understand that. When you were when you were doing the business degree, and then the opportunity came up at Kimberly Clark, I'm just trying to follow the process. That was really exciting because it was more of a marketing role.
Yes, I had to join as a graduate trainee.
Yeah,
I think, I don't know if you still have to do that, but in those days, and you had to spend a period of time in the sales force as well, which I also loved. I mean,
yeah,
again, it was a great experience. So it was a mixture of both, but I never saw it as being long term. I always thought that Revlon sounded much more glamorous than, kitchen towels and so on. So
yeah, sure. And so
yeah,
then,
that's really what made that decision.
and then the role at Revlon, then Rimmel, then Estee Lauder as sales roles. Was that still marketing at all, or was it pure more?
Yeah, I mean, at Rimmel particularly, I was part of the management board, and so therefore I had a lot of involvement in marketing and developing trade marketing plans that has to align very closely to the brand's own marketing plan. So yeah, I mean, it's and then with Bourjois, that was really that was my first general management role, where I was responsible for everything.
Sure.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, it was primarily sales, but that was because, I probably had an aptitude for it and never found it. I found it easy to move up each
Yeah.
time.
And you didn't have an empty void missing marketing because you still had a little bit of marketing involved and you
Yeah,
were
I
just
didn't
loving
at all.
sales that much?
No, I mean, I've always thought, this may sound crazy, that whatever job I've done, I've always think it's the best job anyone could ever have.
I'm the
I've made,
same. Yeah.
I've made complaints, really. I feel, yeah, it's always been that way. When I was at Rimmel, I thought I had the best job ever. Revlon, whatever role I was doing, I thought was the best job ever. So,
What a
yeah,
feeling that is. That's
yeah,
brilliant.
it's
Did you
lovely.
have, were there, especially when I suppose when you went to Kimberly Clark and then Revlon, you said Revlon, the MD was taking an interest in the performance, but did you have any standout mentors during
Yeah.
this period leading up to now?
Yeah, I have had. I mean, a person who had an immense impact on me was a lady called Mary Brogan, who was the buyer at Selfridges
Okay.
a long, long time ago when I was running the West End for Selfridges, and there was, that was such a highly visible and political role. And Mary was the buyer at Selfridges, and she taught me always to trust my gut instinct and to aim high. And I never forget, she used to carry a clipboard with a sheet of paper in it, walk the floor, always writing down notes. And when she got back to her office, she had a file for every brand. She tore out the piece of paper, stuck it in the file. And I said to her, why do you do that? And she said, I never forget anything. I don't have to think about it now. When that file comes out, that note will be ready for me. And I just thought that's such a great way of organizing a complex and what needs to be detail-oriented business. And, even in practical terms, she influenced, my way of thinking. So that was one. I've got a long-standing mentor in a guy who's a friend, a guy called John Penn, who was managing director and owned a point-of-sale display company. And he certainly proved to be a great mentor throughout my career, and my dad, because my dad was, has always been an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So where
And
did,
I've, mentors are very, very important. I've always been a great believer in executive coaching as well, which I've used both for myself and my team. So yeah, I think at times you need all that outside help you can get.
yeah, are you involved with it yourself, the executive?
Sorry, gone mute.
Oh, sorry, can you hear me now?
Yep, can.
Sorry about that.
That's
Are
all
you
right.
involved in that yourself? Or do you
Yeah,
just leave the,
I have done it. Yeah, I have, and we do occasionally do mentoring programs at the Red Tree. But I've acted as an official mentor to people on a number of occasions. Yeah,
and do you, someone was contacting me like a peer-to-peer mentoring group. Do you get a lot of satisfaction out of doing that?
yeah, I do. Yeah, yeah, I do.
So where did Selfridges feature in the lineup?
Well, it only featured as long as I was at Lauder. So, I mean,
Ah,
I was sales director of Lauder, and as I mentioned earlier, stayed there for 1 year and
so
learned
you,
a great
sorry,
deal.
so you got, so Mary was essentially a customer of yours, but
Yeah,
was,
Mary was a customer of mine when I was at Revlon. So
okay,
really early on in my career.
okay, amazing. And she was helping you from that moment, or you got back in touch later on
No,
in,
no, no. She only helped me through that time. I mean, I'm not even sure if she's still alive now. I know she had some health issues a number of years ago. But, I think when you were, I'm just trying to think how old I must have been. Probably late 20s. Working with someone like her was, just the way, if she felt in her gut to back a particular product offer or promotion, she would make sure it was implemented and run to 150% of what it could be. And that's another thing, if you're going to do something, you do it really well. If you're going to back something, you back it big. So, they're all things from that time, really. I probably, saying I don't even know if I've ever thanked her for all of that. So I should have done. I think I might have done in an email or a card when she retired. So,
oh, okay. It's
yeah.
funny how you come across mentors, and sometimes you don't even realize it at the time when you're looking back. I had a customer of mine. This is going back I don't know, 15 years now, I think, and they played a big part. It felt like the business I was at the time, where they were just so busy with everything that we were doing, yet
Yes.
going out and seeing a customer and sitting down and having a coffee and lunch, you had a lot more time to actually talk about other things, and
Yeah.
that played a big part in my life. That was insane. With regard to trusting your gut instinct, so is that something you do all the time now?
Most of the time, yeah. I still have that. Yeah, I do. I think I probably do that most of the time, and it helps in my decision-making process. If something doesn't feel, I mean, there's things I've done that haven't felt right that I've, badly regretted in my career, like
Yeah,
all of us, I think, because
and you kick yourself.
after Bourjois, I set up my own company, and I was approached by investors to set up the business so that we could make a major acquisition. And the way the funds were raised, we floated the business on what was then the alternative investment market, AIM. I think it still is. And we raised about £2.5 million so we could make the acquisition. But I knew from even before we made the acquisition that it was the wrong thing to do. But you're on a fast moving train, you can't get off. And that whole episode taught me that, I still have to listen to my gut feel, really do. There's no question about it.
Yeah, and is there still times though when, despite all your experiences and the importance of listening to your gut, sometimes you do still you think you're being a bit more
I
rational,
live
or
that way, really. I think, well, I don't know. I mean, that whole episode of floating a business was, although it was, difficult, I learned a lot from it. And, not everybody can say they've done that, because when you're floating a business on the alternative investment market, you have to deal with stockbrokers, nomads, nominated advisors. And to be honest, they don't give a toss about brands, which what we were about. They just give a toss of, how much money are we going to get back, and when,
Sure.
and what's the exit, and so on. So it taught me a great deal. And we ended up, to complete the deal, we had to take some short-term financing for an American investment fund. And we did the deal, and it was all okay. But within about 2 weeks, the recession that started in 2006 hit us really hard, or 2008. Hit us really hard. And after about a year, we knew that we couldn't pay this amount back. And so I think for the only time ever in my life, I had sleepless nights for about a month because I feared what was going to happen. And when I went to see them, which was bang in the middle of the recession, to say to them, look, we can't pay this back. So, you're going to have to decide what to do. They said to me, your problems are like small change in our pocket. We have got millions upon millions backing other businesses. Your £800,000 is the small change. So we give you as long as you want. You go back and solve how we're going to get the money back, but there is no rush. I came out of that and I thought, why on earth did I worry?
Yeah.
So, but going back to your question, all the way through, I made the wrong decision, didn't listen to my gut. And it's like, I suppose, like if you're putting a screw into place, if you twist it and it's pointing downwards instead of horizontal, the only way you can solve it is to undo it all and take it out.
Yeah.
You can't keep on so you can't keep on screwing it down because it misses, what you want it to do. And I should have stopped that whole process long before it ended, but I didn't.
Yeah, it's hard when you've got that momentum flying along with something and you're not feeling it, but you feel like you're too far down the road to actually do something.
And everybody's depending on you to make money out of it and wants to see it grow. But, it was a complete disaster from the beginning to the end. That's terrible to say. It wasn't a complete disaster. It was, putting a positive spin on it, it was a valuable learning experience.
Yeah. And where you were talking about having a chat with them when you were having those sleepless nights, and in your head you'd build it up to be something crazy and then it didn't turn out to be that bad. Have you had many experiences of that before?
No, that was the only one, thankfully.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's good
Yeah,
then. And what happened after Chanel?
Well, so after Chanel, I set my own company up, which was the episode I've been telling you about. And then during that time, while I was doing all this work on the AIM listed company, I was also approached to do lots of consultancy projects. We did a project for boots, developed a couple of brands, and I just thought, this is really enjoyable. I like it. I work with a wide mix of people. They listen. It's, we're contributing to someone else's success, which is a nice purpose to have. And so once the the AIM deal got settled amicably, which it did. We found the company to purchase us, and everything worked out well. I just thought I can build something here, and that's what I've done ever since. And we celebrated our 10th anniversary last week for the Red Tree, so it's been good.
And so throughout your career, literally from leaving university to then the acquisition piece and the consultancy, there's never been like a moment during that period where you thought, I can't work for other people anymore, I'm going to set up myself.
Yeah.
It's just been organic.
I did have that. Towards the end of my days at Bourjois, I was there about 10 years. Towards the end of my days at Bourjois, I can remember going to a conference in Brittany, in France, which was where Bourjois used to have its annual conference. And it overlooked the sea, and I was sitting in a room, and there was beautiful sunshine, beautiful beach, full of restaurants and people, and I'm sitting in this room. And at the time, I ran the UK, and every market had to present its plans and its business. So each of which there were 20 markets, so it took 2 days. I have to tell you, after the 5th one, I just thought, I can't do this anymore. I can't handle this anymore. I need something, far more than that. And really, that was the day that set in motion, the means to have my own business.
And did you know what that looked like? Or
no, I knew it was going to be something in beauty. I knew it was going to be something to do with brands. No, I had quite an open mind. I wasn't 100% sure, but I knew I needed to do that. And I left corporate life, I think, on my, I can't remember, about 48th birthday, something like that, or 49th birthday.
Okay. Wow. And
with no regrets, really. I often think now, it would have been great if I had done that, set up the Red Tree 10 years earlier. But
sure,
what is, you can't change it. So, and maybe 10 years before that, it wouldn't have been as successful as it's been.
It's another 10 years experience, which is even more diverse, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so.
And when you were thinking, I definitely want to do something on my own now, was it on your own? Or
I did start on my own. Yeah, I did. But I had very good contacts. So, I was very quickly talking to people. I was approached by people, and I was approached by a mutual friend of an investor to set up, this company to make an acquisition. And so that's the path I initially followed.
The company being the Red Tree. So what is the
Red Tree? That company then was called the Core Business. So that was a business we acquired, yeah. Okay. And then after that didn't work, I set up the Red Tree, which was over 10 years ago now.
Oh, okay. Oh, so I did just jump the gun and miss a little bit. So what was the other company?
It's called the Core Business.
Okay. And what was that business doing?
It was taking brands that the acquisition had and creating our own brands and selling them into people like Superdrug, Asda, the pharmacy sector, and so on.
Okay, and that didn't work out.
No, it didn't work out because we raised the capital to make it happen, which I mentioned earlier, which included this £800,000 sum from an investment company. But as soon as we completed the deal, the recession hit, and trading was very, very tough. We brought in a lot of brands from Europe, and at that time we were getting 1.4 euros to the pound. It's now parity. We were bringing brands in from Australia. I think we used to get, can't remember, maybe $2.50 to the pound. It went down to $1, something like that. So it went down to, we got hurt very badly by that recession. And that's sorry, go on.
And then when the call that you had with the guys, and you were saying, and that you were just pocket change, this £800,000
face-to-face meeting. I thought I could have been set about with a baseball bat.
Oh, it was a face-to-face. Excellent. I find they're always the better ones to have if you think they're going to be a bad conversation, actually, rather than a phone call, or definitely not an email. I think these kind of calls will help a lot more in the future, actually, with that sort of stuff. But so go away, and you've just got all the time in the world to find it. Did you find it?
Yeah, because I think, as I said earlier, when I was running that AIM-listed company, I was approached to do lots of consultancy projects. So I think, almost it it was just a natural transition. You know, I don't even think I had a week's break. The AIM-listed company, which was the core business, was taken over by another company that wanted to list on AIM very quickly. They were into oil and we were into lipsticks, and the American investment company thought they had much better chance of getting their money back with an oil company than they ever would with a lipstick company.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, I mean, no, there was, you know, I certainly didn't wait too long to get back into things. No, you know, I think I set the Red Tree up. I originally set up Stirling Murray Associates probably 12, 13 years ago, and then the Red Tree, we just celebrated 10 years.
Okay, and you weren't put off from what happened with
No.
the other one beforehand. You
No,
thought it just didn't work out because of the recession,
Yeah.
because of timings, and
Yeah, I didn't. No, I didn't worry about that at all.
but it wasn't quite the same business. It was very different. So what is it the Red Tree do, Stanley?
So the Red Tree are the UK's leading beauty brand consultancy. We do two things. The first is consultancy with a very wide mix of clients. More than 70% of our turnover is with international clients, and we work with from well-funded startups to major businesses. We do a lot of work with private equity companies on due diligence, brand evaluation, managing some of their brands. And we work on market entry strategy. We would look at, developing brand marketing and communication strategy for clients, and so on. So we've got a very wide, almost a 360-degree offer in consultancy. We cover every category: skin, hair, color cosmetics, male grooming, fragrance, personal care, and so on. And we've got a very strong team, a small but very lean and strong team. And it's been very, very good. In 10 years, we've probably worked with probably not far short of 100 clients.
Okay.
Across all continents except South America and obviously Antarctica. So we've had clients in Africa, Australia. We've worked with clients in more than 20 markets.
Are they longevity? Is there any clients that you worked with 10 years ago that you're still working with now?
Yeah, there's clients that we've worked with that we come back to us for particular projects, and we could, with one of those clients, we've done 4 or 5 projects over 5 or 6 years. With other clients, we work on a retained basis, and some of those clients we've worked with for 7 years. So one of the things that's important to me is to build long-term relationships with our clients, and we do our very best to make sure that happens.
Okay. When you were describing the services you offer at the Red Tree, is 360. It sounded like you were definitely describing every element of your experience that you had. So it kind of ticks all the boxes for what you were doing.
It's very true.
So I can imagine when you were first starting it out, when it was just you, and you were owning it all and you've got a load of confidence in your own ability. How has it been growing the team? Are you the one that still does all of that, and you've got more admin support?
No, we've got I started the business at the same time as virtual secretaries were also coming into vogue as well. So I employed a virtual secretary very quickly, and found that after about a year, I was paying her more than if I took on my own person. So that was the first recruitment, probably within about a year. And gradually the team's been built up since then. We recruited...
Is that Michelle, by the way?
Yeah. Michelle was was my second PA. Okay. And I can tell you, every business needs a Michelle. She just takes care of everything.
She seems like when we've been organising this, she's been really helpful, hasn't she?
Yeah, she's brilliant. So she's been with me 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
Another lady we took on celebrates 3 years this Friday, who is one of our project managers, and so on. So I've got a very good team, very loyal team, and it's just been step by step as there's a need arisen. We've recruited somebody. Our latest recruit is a very bright lady who is a specialist in social and digital. Oh, okay. And, she is just bringing new things to the business that, to be quite frank, I didn't even know existed. Because that is such a fast-moving area. You need somebody who can not only do it for us, so our manner and level of communication has increased tremendously, but can, by virtue of the fact it works for us, I can sell it very positively to clients.
Yeah.
Because I know it works for us, it can work for them.
And so do you still tend to be the front man? Are you still the one having these?
To be. I mean, that's why I got rid of the name Sterling Murray Associates. I don't want it to be about me. My son works in the business. He's been in the business 2 years, so there's some degree of succession planning.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, for me, it's always the red tree. It's not Sterling Murray.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And have you had any challenges as part of the red tree? Has there been any?
I mean, every client is a challenge, and for us, our purpose, as I said earlier, is to contribute to their success. There's been one or two occasions where it hasn't happened in the way that perhaps we thought it done, but they've been few and far between. We've got our clients, are delightful. I mean, there's, and for us, that chemistry is very important. There's two criteria that we apply when we accept a client. And that sounds a bit like a lack of humility. It's not meant to be. But we are approached about more projects than we can actually handle. It's just the way it is.
Uh-huh.
And part of that is down to, our marketing, which doesn't stop. We are reaching out all the time, and our networking grows continually. But, if there's no chemistry between us and the client, or we don't believe in the power of the product, then there's no point in taking them on as a client. And I did once do that, and it was obvious after 3 weeks that we made a terrible mistake. And so I'll never do that again.
And did you have that gut feeling at the beginning of that one?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I think when you were talking at the beginning about sales kind of coming easy to you, and you just like these relationships, I think that makes it even harder. How is it it's something I've previously, or still do, struggle with, because I genuinely like helping people as much as possible. And when you sometimes feel it's not the right fit, it's hard. How do you, and I get it's the humility, and that's how I try and really tread with care with it, because you don't want it to be this ego damaging relationship either. How do you say no to people when you
look, it may well be that our fee structure, for example, we can sense our fee structure may be too high for them. Just like your cost of goods may be too high for them. We would then, either recommend them to someone else. Probably that's exactly what we would do. We know other people who may be able to help them at a lower rate than we would be able to. So that could be one way. Yeah. Another, we often see brands that, in the nicest possible way, quite frankly, have no chance whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I'd rather be honest with the person and say, this isn't going to work. You need to go back to the drawing board. They can take that in the way it's intended, or they can take that badly. But, I feel an obligation to tell them the truth. And very occasionally we've met with people who there is just not going to be the chemistry, and that is a recipe for disaster. And I have to say it very gently, because, very often someone will come to us with, their brand, a brand that they've sweated hard to get to the point of where it's at. And it's like a newborn baby. You can't say to them, your brand is ugly.
Sure.
You can't do that. And so we do it, I think, as well as we can.
That chemistry thing, I think, is extremely powerful. And it's really not that personal, is it? But sometimes you really click with people.
Yeah.
And sometimes you might not click, but you can see there's a good synergy still. But other times, in your gut feel, something's just not right, and you're not feeling it.
Yeah. Exactly. And we had that, and it doesn't happen often, but I've learned that if you take on a project and neither of those things are there, either belief in the product or belief in the person, you're going to end up in trouble.
Yeah.
From both points of view, and it's better not to proceed.
And it doesn't mean that there's not someone else out there for them, does it?
No,
where it's going to work and there is the chemistry.
Yeah. And we recommend, we've got 2 or 3 people that, we have no problem in recommending, because I know they do a good job, but it may be that, they're a bit more They may be less expensive than us. They may be a bit more finely tuned to what the client really needs. But we never recommend them to somebody we wouldn't trust. We would always, and very often, when we do that, I get, lovely emails back from the person who, we've recommended onto one of our contacts, and they're grateful for it. So, it's the right way to do it.
Yeah, I think the recommendations definitely the route to go down, and just that honesty. We
Yeah.
try and make recommendations as much as possible.
Yeah, we do that. We do that.
Do you have an ideal client you look at, or is you really take everything at face value and have a meeting with as many people as you can?
Yeah, no, I would say, we have, we get approached by, in the nicest possible way, a lot of dreamers who, want to develop a brand, really have no clue. And we will always talk to them, and we talk to them through, we have a filter system. So Michelle will talk to them first and evaluate whether it's worth continuing. One of our team, Simon, will talk to them next. And then if, there is a real sense that this is something quite right, but perhaps the person isn't expressing it properly or is unable to articulate their vision, then I would talk to them, and then we decide whether, a meeting is right for both points of view. Because if it's not worthwhile, it does do us harm. It does them harm as well. And so, we try and make sure that anybody we're talking to is right for the business. Dan, I've just noticed my battery is running low. Can I charge it for 10 minutes and come back to you?
Yeah, of course you can.
Yeah?
Yeah, of course. It's not a problem at all.
I'll text you. I would probably need 10 minutes. I didn't realise it was so low. I'm sorry. I should have seen
that's okay.
that.
Not a problem at all. I'll just stay on the call, and then you just jump in whenever.
Yeah, I will come back in 10 minutes. Okay.
Perfect.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Cool. Welcome back. I can't remember where we got to really, and I don't have an opportunity to play it back. What's been the best thing throughout your whole career? What's been the most enjoyable?
Oh, that's so difficult to really answer because I've had so much. I've enjoyed everything so much. I'm very proud of what we've done with the Red Tree because the caliber of clients we have, some of the projects we've worked on have been quite amazing. So I'm proud that we've built that up to something, and I still think there's huge potential to make it bigger. I love my time at Bourjois. Turned the brand round with a team that I thought were the reason why the business was was failing badly. But it really wasn't the team. It was much more the lack of direction the team had. And so that I was very proud of that. Yeah, there's been so many great moments. It's difficult to really pick more than, I wouldn't be able to pick them all.
They're just all very different.
Yeah, all very different and all really good.
So with regards to turning a team round, if they were struggling with like direction and leadership, are you quite good at clearly the leadership piece is a given. With the strategy side, does that come naturally to you as well?
Yeah. And it's not. It can do, and I love to get other people involved. So I'm not the font of all knowledge, really. If we're doing something, I will ask my team. We have once a quarter, sort of a breakout session where we look at what we're doing, how we can improve things. And, it's the team that make that work, really. So, if I lead people by how I like to be managed. And I'm, in my corporate career, which was, nearly 27 years, I think, I hated if I had a manager who was sitting on my shoulder watching everything I do. I trust people. I like to be trusted. And, therefore, I think if you were to ask anybody that has ever worked for me in any role, they would tell you that, they have a lot of autonomy. But, I also expect standards as well. And, that's more true than anything in the Red Tree. If we say we're going to do something, we do it. If we say we're going to deliver on a time, we should do that.
Sure.
And so on. So, I'm very, very firm in standards. I would tell people the truth if there's something not right.
Yeah.
but then, that once that's done, then we move on to the next thing. So, that's the way I've always worked. And that's the way, when I was in corporate life, I like to be managed.
Yeah, no, I think integrity is key, and that trust is massive. With regards to the piece you were talking about with the filter, with brands inquiring to work with you now, when it was just you were obviously doing the filtering yourself, and you're making those calls, and now you rely on starting with Michelle and it passing on and passing on. At what point did that flip? Was it just as you started recruiting? So, because
No,
I'd
I tell
imagine,
you, about 2 years ago, there's an event, which I think has now run its course, but 2 years ago, there was an event organized by Kiasco, who are conference organizers, called Beauty and Money.
okay,
Beauty and Money was about bringing brands together with potential investors and, that kind of community and so on. And we attended one of the first ones they had, which was in San Francisco. And so we were an exhibitor, or rather a sponsor. We had our own sort of area. The amount of kudos and the amount of contacts that gave us was quite unbelievable. And the consequence of that was we were getting more replies than we could cope with.
yeah, okay,
And, I was spending all my time writing out, because we didn't put in place this filtering process, I was spending a hell of a lot of my time writing out proposals that had no chance of ever being accepted or approved. Because, the people were just at not the level. And I just thought, that can't continue. We need to be far more selective who we send proposals to. We need to filter out those people who are in the nicest possible way time wasters or dreamers.
yeah, and then pass them on.
So, we just set that up. Really, maximize time, really.
Yeah. And do you, as the founder, and obviously despite it not being your name, you're just synonymous with the Red Tree, aren't you? So if anyone wants to speak to, I'd imagine your name gets thrown around a lot, and people tell people to go and speak to Stirling at the Red Tree.
Yeah. And look, that's just because I've been in the industry a long time, and I've worked, across different markets, and so people pick up my name. It's an unusual name anyway, so they don't tend to forget it.
Dan Williams, on the other hand, I don't tend to have that problem. I think everyone knows that Dan Williams. But so if you're getting called directly or emailed directly, how do you find it easy now passing them on to Michelle?
Yes. Yeah, totally. I do. I don't have a problem with that at all.
Okay.
And, I explain it very nicely in the email as well. I've also we have a particular manner, or rather a step-by-step approach, before we send the proposal. We go through these steps that, I've already spoken about the filtering steps. We also go through questioning steps as well. So invariably, we'll have spoken to a potential client, probably from the initial contact to when we send the proposal off, 4 or 5 times.
Okay.
If a client after our first meeting says, I want a proposal, I like it now, we say, well, no, there's a lot more questions we have to ask. You should be asking us a lot more questions. We need to go away and think about what both of us have thought. And, we've had 1 or 2 potential clients who said, no, I want a proposal now. And we won't do it because it won't go, it will be wrong. You can't do a proposal on an hour's meeting or an hour and a half's meeting.
No, I completely agree.
It's important that the chemistry is there, the understanding is there, and most, 99% of people value that step-by-step approach.
That's good.
The 1% that doesn't isn't the kind of client we're going to want anyway. So, we try and do it that way. I guess you must be much the same.
To be quite honest, it's something I wrestle with, especially joining the business originally as the sales director. Obviously, I've got all the relationships, and now going into the manager director role, it's still a lot of people contact me.
Yeah,
and I like having that contact. But so no, on a purely selfish level, I was just very intrigued to see how you handle it. But for me, I completely agree. I think people need to see things slightly different, because although if you were investing money, you would take your time and you'd be asking a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And essentially your time is, if not more valuable than that. And you could put a price on it if you wanted to calculate salary and the amount of time you take doing it. So for me, it's an own form of due diligence, isn't it? And
Yeah.
when we're now asking these questions, it isn't purely on our basis. We really want to make sure that the brands that are approaching us to work with us, they're making the right decision, because essentially we may be wrong for them, not just vice versa.
I totally agree. Yeah, I fully agree with you. And
Yeah.
that will be part of the conversation. We consider ourselves to be one of the best consultancies, not just in the UK, but in a number of European markets, and there's probably a few companies that do what we do in the US. But if you consider yourself the best, your pricing is going to be towards the top end.
Yep.
And that's not for everybody. And we understand that, and therefore you have to be aware that what I would say, one of the lessons I've learned about beauty, and you probably know the same, if you're going to compete in beauty, you have to invest. There is no question. Even from the very basic level in producing product is an investment, but that's only the tip of the iceberg. And it's always important for us to make sure that is clearly known to any potential clients. And that's another filter step. If a client hasn't got didn't know that, or has only got very limited funds and has no meaning anymore, rather they don't waste their money. I don't want to be in a position where we're taking that money and then they run out very quickly. There's just no moral value in doing that.
Yeah.
And so we make it very, very clear. Invest in the UK, or beauty particularly, is an investment intensive business. And I read a great quote somewhere from somebody or the other, an American guy who made his fortune in one business sector, came into beauty. And his point of view is that the beauty business is a grind out business. It takes time. It really does. And when, the success stories we read about, like Drunk Elephant being sold for a fortune, Dollar Shave Club, Elemis, and all of those, they are the exceptions. There are so many brands that fall by the wayside.
Yeah.
And you have to make sure that people's eyes are open to the chance of failure as much as the chance of success.
Yeah, most definitely. Going that with regards to them investing and cash flow is something we consider really carefully. One of the questions I often talk with the brands about is similar to your pricing. We talk about minimum order quantities and things like that.
Of course.
And ours tends to start at 5,000. And when you get some feedback from people like, well, I think I could stretch to that, straight away for me, that's alarm bells, in so much that I don't want people to be tying their cash flow up with stock sat in a warehouse for a long, long time. So they'd be much more suited to working with a smaller manufacturer where they can be ordering 1,000 or 2,000 units.
Yeah.
And just keep the stock and the cash turning a little bit quicker rather than
very much so
working. But ultimately, it's their decision at the end of the day. But we just try. I do massively try and put myself in their shoes all the time, which is why I'm not as good as listening to my gut all the time as you, because I've just always got this niggling urge to help people, even when sometimes deep inside I think I'm not the person really to be helping them right now. I desperately try and help them, and I need to get better at that, because the only people that really suffer are the team around me.
Yeah, I understand.
But yeah, there's that. But that's been great, Stirling.
You're welcome. Great talking to you.
Yeah, fascinating. It's been a long time coming, actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
First engaging.
I'm really pleased to be here, and I explained to my team about Pocket Mentors. They thought it was a great idea. So as I said to you, you should be writing a book. Take the best from each.
Yeah, funny. That's the second person today that's actually mentioned doing a book. Again, this comes back to me just wanting to help. Actually, I just knew that there's a lot of people that can give a lot of advice, and even just sharing stories helps people realise that they're not in this alone. It's not unique to them, and all these challenges that everyone's facing. And
well, we've run a couple of free sort of webinars over the last couple of weeks. The first one, we pulled together some really good people like Millie Kendall, a lady called Kate Tajiro, who is a FTSE 100 coach, and so on, just to talk about how to cope with what is happening.
Yeah. Oh,
we then ran a couple of weeks ago about how to get the best out of social and digital. Had, I think, about 100 attendees at the first one and about 60 at the second. And we'll run another one because, it's nice to give something back, really, and I think where we can help people, I'm only too happy to do so. And, we often get old clients calling us who, just want to spend half an hour chatting on the phone about things they want to do.
Yeah.
Or we get, people that haven't been clients, but we felt a particular affinity to, and so we maintain contact with them. And many of those have been on the phone over the last 6 weeks saying, should we do this? Should we do that? And, we never, we enjoy doing that. It's never considered the wrong thing to do or anything like that. So you reach a point where you do have to give back as well. So, we're into that in as big a way as we can be.
Yeah, amazing. And how do people hear about the webinars and get in touch with the Red Tree? What's the best way?
We push it out on LinkedIn, we push it out on social media, and we push it out through our database.
Okay. Perfect.
So we'll invite you to the next one. You can come with pleasure.
Yeah, that would be great. So that people can just go onto social media and look at the Red Tree.
Yeah, we do it. Yeah, we'll. I'll make sure I'm sure you must be on our database anyway, but if not, I'll make sure you are, and we just mail out. I'm doing one tomorrow with Millie Kendall for an American company about the state of beauty in the UK.
Okay.
So yeah, we're doing lots of those things, and it's interesting. We probably should have done more of them. We didn't, and this has prompted us to think that these kind of things are important for people who want to enter beauty, making the transition from another sector into beauty, or just really want to hear and take comfort in that other people have the same problems.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
I think
that was a lesson learned from us. We're going to be doing more of those kind of activities.
Yeah, that's great. I think a lot more people are doing things like that now. And I think actually, strangely enough, it will probably help the whole vetting process for companies anyway, because it's giving people a little bit more food for thought before they make that big leap.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. No, great. Well, I won't take up any more of your time, Stirling. That's been honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been great.
My pleasure. It's been great.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
And once all this is over, we must meet up, Dan.
Yeah, most definitely. No, that'll be good.
Find a way of doing that. Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
All right.
Thank you.
Take good care.